JJ, you and Shaq both agree on something, and that I think you guys have issues with voting for NBA awards. Shaq's issue is whenever we talk about the MVP, he's always saying what matters more, individual production or standings. If I could make you the commissioner for the day, how would you change the way that the NBA votes on awards? And that includes who gets to vote on the awards themselves.
Interesting. I would like a better definition of a couple of the awards, particularly most improved player. I think that's the one that, like, should we have a cutoff for, you got to get it by your fifth year. It's all fifth-year players and under. There's certain times where, like, Shea almost got it last year. I'm like, dude, this dude was a star the year before. Like, did he get better? Yeah, he got better. But, like, I think most improved to me has always been about, like, a guy playing a completely different role or developing a completely new skill set, right? A guy goes from, this guy's a 30% three-point shooter shooting 2 a game to all of a sudden he's a 40% three-point shooter shooting 8 a game. That's like, okay, that screams most improved to me. MVP is interesting because I think everybody has a different definition of it. I said this the other day when I did my awards show for the Old Man and the Three. MVP, if we're weighting like all the individual awards, and let's say we start at a baseline of it's 50% individual performance, 50% team performance, right? I would hold on. Let me get somewhere. That's the baseline, Shaq. That's the baseline.
Okay, I'm just saying, go ahead.
Okay. Man. MVP to me is you have to weigh the team performance a little bit more. All NBA, you weigh the individual performance a little bit more. But Shaq disagrees with me, and I'd love to get his thoughts on this matter.
It's a singular award.
The MVP.
Most valuable player.
Yeah.
Player.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with the team.
Okay.
If you're
So you're saying we should just give it to the best player every year, regardless of what his team did?
Okay, no, so we should interject the rules a little bit. Like, for example, if you're 1 through 8 and your team is in the playoffs, you qualify for most valuable player, right? You qualify for most valuable player. I've always thought it was stats, how you played, and your effect on the game, right?
Yeah.
If you put SGA with Charlotte, would he be talked about as MVP? Would he?
Why'd you bring up Charlotte? Why'd you just throw Charlotte in there? That's weird. That's just the first team that popped in your head?
They're not in the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
so
a great point.
just Charlotte. But
great point.
Like, so now this is very interesting because my criteria and everybody else's criteria is working. SGA is the baddest boy in the league by far.
You think he's the best player in the league?
One of the best players in the league. He's the most valuable player this year, in my opinion.
Okay.
One of a few guys that had 30 points 55 times, right?
Yeah.
His team was number 1 and number 2 and great on the game. Like, let's switch a little bit.
Hold on. I want to say one thing real quick. I want to say one thing. Actually, I want to say 2 things to your point. Number 1, as it relates to SGA, I think what is frustrating now as a voter and as someone...
You get to vote?
Yeah. They asked me to vote. I voted.
You get to vote, I don't.
I get an email that says, do you want to vote?
That's some bull.
Jack, you don't respond to your emails. That's the issue.
Well, apparently this guy doesn't watch the NBA.
Yeah, according to your according to your old friend.
No,
he's on that list too.
I want to say something. I want to say what is frustrating to me is there's a lot of guys, at least the 2 years I voted, there's a lot of guys that deserve it. And everybody gets into this argument for a player. And by doing that, then they inherently get into the argument of why so-and-so doesn't deserve it. And that, I think, gets frustrating at times because my criteria can be a little bit different than your criteria, can be a little bit different than her criteria. Like, and that's okay, right? That's why they have 100 voters. I just don't like the argument against people. The other thing, too, is one of the arguments that has popped up recently, and particularly as it relates to Jokic, is this idea that we're setting a precedent now. If he gets 3 in 4 years, let's say, if he gets 3 in 4 years, we'll look at the history of the NBA. Guess what? Voters up a bunch of MVPs.
They sure did.
He should have had more. MJ should have had more. Duncan probably should have had more. There are years where the Spurs, there's years where the Spurs had 60 wins and didn't get anybody on the All NBA list. Like, voters have up. What? So we're gonna make the argument now that we shouldn't vote the right way. I'm not saying it's. I'm not. This is not an argument for Jokic. We're saying we shouldn't vote the right way now because we up in the past. What? That is illogical.
It should be Hall of Famers and ex-players only. 50 Hall of Famers and 50 ex-players. That's it. That's how voting should be. All these earthlings like Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp and, Mad Dog and all that. No, I'm just saying, like, they shouldn't get votes. It should be 50 Hall of Famers and 50 ex-players that understand that. For example, like, this is kind of weird to me. Victor Wembanyama, all those records he broke, right? According to everybody else's criteria, his team didn't make the playoffs. So should he be a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year? Stats-wise, yes, but everybody else's criteria-wise, no.
Yeah.
And then Rudy plays on a great team.
Yeah.
Plays on a great team. But Wembanyama's stats are killing Rudy's stats. So that's the only problem. Like,
I had a hard time with that one, to be honest with you.
I did too.
I had a really hard time with that one. And I thought Bam was deserving too. I thought Bam defensively was great this year. I had him third. I ended up with Rudy at first. That's fine. You can
over Wembanyama.
That's where I ended up.
So you probably got Dwight over me as the Magic's best big man ever. How dare you to say it?
What?
How dare you to say it?
How about this?
No, ask the question. Since you
how about this?
Awards away.
How about this?
No, the best Orlando Magic big man ever. Say it. It's only 3. Me, Dwight, and Greg Kite. Say it. Go ahead, say it. I want the order right now.
Like, I don't want to get into this with you right now, but when people have tried to have this discussion with me, and I've done this in public forums, by the way. I've done this. I'm sure I've did this on First Take, and I've definitely done this on the podcast a couple times. Like, just so you know, and I'm not just saying this because I'm right here, but when people talk about the top 10 players, the Mount Rushmores, or the greatest, I'm like, God, there are certain guys that we don't talk about enough. We don't talk about you enough. We don't talk about Tim Duncan enough, to me. We don't talk about certain guys enough. You are the best big man in Orlando Magic history. Like, I don't, like, what? Why would you even question that?
I'm just asking. No,
Adam,
I mean, Dwight does have better career stats with the Magic. I'm only kidding, Shaq. I'm only kidding.
See?
So the Magic have been trying to get me to come back to a game for a few years, and I just haven't been able to get down there. And I see Dante Marchitelli at a game in Brooklyn in December, and he's like, "Hey, we'd really like to honor you at a Magic game." I don't know what they call it, the Ring of Honor or
Ring
something.
of Honor.
I don't know. So I'm like, okay. I was like, I'm actually taking my kids to Disney World over All-Star break for the first time. You guys have a game the night before. I'll just come in a day early, right? And I'm not looking at the schedule. I'm not really paying it. I'm just like, I'll come in the day early. They retired your jersey the night before, and then they just gave me a jersey, like at center court. I'm like, I should have picked any other date. Like, for me to follow you up. Like, come on, man. That was just bad timing, bad planning on my part. Bad planning.
You rode in the wake of Shaq's jersey retirement.